Thank you very much. You've heard a lot about disruption this morning, and I'm going to continue that conversation, but maybe in a little different way, because I want to talk about turning disruption off and turning innovation on. Now, why talk about disruption? Because leaders are worried. They're worried about the pace of change. They're worried, can we keep up? And I don't know about you, but things seem to be moving faster every day. We've just seen how quickly your products are moving. I get up in the morning and I feel like that guy in the rocket sled, that guy whose face is just being peeled back by the forces of change. I mean, it's moving fast. We've seen disruption in music and hotels and limos and payments, and we'll see more. But it isn't just about disruption in your little part of the world. It can be about what's happening upstream and downstream from you as well. I spoke in Cincinnati a few weeks ago, and I saw this photograph. It's Cincinnati in 1848. And I looked at that steamship tied up on the wharf, and I thought about how quickly those steamships disappeared with the invention of the diesel engine, completion of the national railroad network. They were gone. But then I zoomed in on that picture. Look at what else went away. The paint shop, the copper shop, the boiler repair shop, they were all gone too. So it isn't just about what's happening to you. It's about what's happening upstream and downstream from you. Maybe a more contemporary argument will make the point a little better. We're all talking about self-driving cars today, and we know that they will affect truck drivers, the #1 employment of high school educated males in the United States. But what about insurance? These cars are inherently safer. Insurance will change. What about parking? Well, you're just going to send your car away and then summon it back when you need it. You won't park it. What about auto repair? Many of these will be electric, needing less repair. Real estate will be redesigned. Deliveries will be automated. Hotels? Hey, honey, let's just sleep in the car. We're almost to Vegas, It's going to be easy. What about healthcare? The #1 cause of emergency room visits is car wrecks. They're going to go down. What about billboards? Well, nobody's going to be looking out the window anymore, right? You're just going to be reading your iPad or a book. And even traffic cops. I mean, who are you going to arrest? All this disruption from just one technological change. So we have to be vigilant in looking at it. So I want to talk about who and what is likely to disrupt you, and more importantly, what can you do about it? What can you do about it? So let's talk about digital disruption. I'm going to talk about 8 or 10 digital technologies that are highly disruptive. Now, as mentioned, I started my career as a travel agent 45 years ago. And back then, it was IT phase 1. In fact, we called it data processing. Systems of record, systems that added up sales and made the reservations and created the financials. And if you wanted to take a 5-megabyte disk along with you on the airplane, well, you needed a lift truck, right? That's how big it was back then. The big change, of course, was connectivity, principally the internet. Built for one thing, communications during a nuclear war, actually turned out to do something else quite different. Information escaped. Information found its freedom. Information was being beamed to us all the time, and we were empowered by that information. But we kind of forget that at the beginning of the internet age, information only flowed one way. It was a tiny bit up and just a little more back. That's why the first page of Yahoo looked like this. First page of Travelocity looked like that. And there was another reason. Remember that? It was slow. It was really slow. But even that limited connectivity equaled great opportunity for disruption. Music went from albums to by the song. Maps went to digital and free. Books went to digital and cheap. Encyclopedias went to digital and cheap and free. All disrupted from that little bit of connectivity. That was IT phase 2, systems of engagement. Systems where for the first time we engaged our customers digitally. And that allowed Travelocity and Expedia and many others to grow. And it didn't just change B2C, it changed B2B as well. If you think about the classic purchasing process, recognize the need, identify the supplier, evaluate, negotiate, and select. In the old days, there was a little bit of that you did in the Yellow Pages maybe, or in a magazine or a convention, and then pretty soon you were engaged with sales in a process that took weeks or months. But the internet came along and whoosh, all that happens online. You get the call, the guy says, you know that widget you sell for $1,000? I want 2,000 of them, I'll pay you 500. I want it tomorrow. Process that takes hours or days. It's compressed our schedule. Now, then we had another change because users began to create information and they made it a two-way street. And people started writing and selling and rating. My friend Rich Barton, who started Expedia and Zillow, says if it can be rated, it will be rated. So buyer experiences are still shared, but no longer one-to-one over the backyard fence. Now it's one-to-many over the network on sites like TripAdvisor, where they have 140 million hotel reviews. And I talk to a lot of small businesses who say, well, I don't want reviews. You know, I might get a bad one. I say, you sucked before. You just didn't know about it. Reviews are a chance to get better. Use them. And this two-way street caused more disruption, right? Hotels went to sharing, photography went to free, limos went to cheap, news went to free, software went to free and ad-based. More disruption. And disruption doesn't stop. We got these very powerful mobile computers in our hands, 7 billion cell phones in the world, 5 billion of them network connected. 50% of Priceline's bookings are mobile. In my business, if you're not mobile, you're not in business, right? 2 billion smartphones creating and consuming data. And by the way, creating 1 trillion images per year, which makes it even more important that your business make it so easy to print from any mobile device. So that little stream of data that was being created back when Bill Gates was programming on a teletype is now a raging torrent of data from the Internet of Things, from mobile, from wearables, from laptops. And that created big data. Big data. 90% of the world's data created in the last 3 years. Wow. Where to put it? Where are we going to put all that data? Well, a happy coincidence, because as processing power, storage density, and communication speed have gone straight up, the cost of those three things have gone straight down. And that allowed us to create the cloud. Well, what is the cloud anyway? It just means instead of our own data center, we use Amazon or Microsoft or Ricoh to store our data. Why is that important? Because it's instantly available, insanely inexpensive, and infinitely scalable and easy. Drop dead easy. I don't have to worry about IT anymore, and it's a game changer. It's why 2 guys in a startup have as much computing power as the largest Fortune 500 company. That's why so many startups are successful, because of the power of the cloud. The way to sell the cloud, I think, is just say, I don't have to worry, Mr. Customer. I submit my job and get the result. I don't worry about backup. I don't worry about security. I don't worry about updates. I just don't worry about IT. That's why the cloud is easy. That's why the cloud is impactful, particularly for small business. And it's another recurring revenue stream, another annuity for you. Cloud storage, SI Cloud. It's part of strategy too, right? Another annuity. Now, 80% of this new data is unstructured. It's blogs, it's audio, it's video. It's not rows and columns. It's hard to deal with. It's dark data, digital exhaust. American Airlines has the data. I always sit in seat 4F. They have yet to offer it to me. Hyatt Hotels, somewhere has the data. I will stay on a high floor. Never got it. We have to do something with that dark data. This complexity equals another opportunity. The opportunity to simplify. To simplify, to take us to IT phase 3, which is systems of insight. Systems that can make sense out of all this data in which we are drowning. Enter AI. Because if data is the oil of the 21st century, AI is the refinery. AI can make sense out of these data. Now, I have a whole speech on AI. I'm not going to give it today. But the most important thing to know about AI is these systems learn. They're the first computers that are worth more when they're old than when they're new. And as an old guy, I like that a lot, right? So that's why we moved so quickly from Deep Blue beating Garry Kasparov at chess, to Watson winning Jeopardy, to Google winning Go, a game with 1 trillion possible endings. It's about learning. You see, if your son has a car wreck, you'll probably remonstrate him, and he won't ever have that same wreck again. If a self-driving car has a wreck, all the other self-driving cars learn about that with the next software update. Tesla has 1.3 billion miles of learning. I have a Tesla. I don't use self-drive, but my car is constantly sending data to Tesla so it gets smarter. These systems are learning 24/7 by 365. It's important because with AI, you can't program for everything. There's a wonderful story about a Google self-driving car, and it was programmed. It got to the four-way stop, and it stopped, and the car next across from it went, and it got ready to go, and the guy on the right cut it off. It stopped, and the guy on the left cut it off, and the guy behind it honked his horn, and it had a nervous breakdown, and they had to tow it away. Because you can't program for this stuff. You have to have real-world learning. I mean, what's going to happen when we at a self-driving car? Is the robot going to do this or maybe some other gesture? I don't know. It's about learning. And AI is the new UI. AI is the new user interface. It's not just plumbing. AI is changing how products are sold with Alexa. AI is changing how products are supported with chatbots. AI is changing how processes are automated by handwriting analysis. It's the new user interface, how we collaborate, right, with your smart whiteboard and the other smart AI products we heard about earlier. AI is the new UI. The biggest disruptor is voice. 47 million of these devices already installed in the United States. Very easy to use. Listen to Google Duplex, just announced. This is a system that simulates a human making a reservation.
Oh, how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Pretty amazing. You can't hardly tell the difference. I love an AI that says, uh-huh. Huh? And everything will have a voice UI.
5 copies, double-sided.
Okay, you want to make 5 double-sided copies. Please wait while I prepare your documents.
But it won't be sitting on top. It's going to be built into everything, right? I mean, Alexa's going to be, how many people here have an Alexa? So, yeah, about the right percentage. Here's Alexa in a car.
So, where's the nearest gas station?
Nearest gas station in 1.5 miles.
And to help maintain your vehicle.
Alexa, order more brake pads.
Ordering new brake pads, although maybe if you didn't stop so close to the car in front of
I
you,
left plenty of room.
you drive too aggressively.
If you were just quiet for 2 seconds, 2
She'll
seconds.
talk to you literally the entire time you're driving.
I think you should have turned back there.
I know where I'm going!
Hi, you know why I pulled you over?
No, officer, I have...
Because we were driving 72 miles per hour in a 45-mile-per-hour zone.
Anything else I should know?
2 miles back, we rolled through a stop sign without coming to a complete stop. Also, there are illegal fireworks in the trunk.
Sorry, would you step out of the car, please?
Amazon Alexa. You'll never get away from it.
Well, thanks to the Ellen Show for that. These devices are going to be everywhere. And you heard earlier about computer vision, incredibly powerful. You know, I spoke at a life insurance conference last week, and they're actually applying selfies for life insurance policy. You can send a selfie in. It does facial recognition. The facial recognition can detect much about your health, and you can be approved within seconds using a selfie. At my company, Wayblazer, we're analyzing travel photographs. So our AI looks at this and said it's a man, a woman, a sunset, and a pool. That's interesting, but then we send it through the neural net and say, what's the concept of that image? The concept is romance. So if someone wants a romantic vacation, show them that picture. Guess what? More people buy if you show them the right image, right? Handwriting recognition, coming along very fast, part of robotic process automation, allowing people to make applications very quickly. Now, as these technologies converge, they get more powerful, so put big data together with cloud and connectivity, you get the Internet of Things, 75 billion Internet of Things by 2025, like jet engines sending data to the ground, like pill bottles to tell your doctor when you need a refill. I'm part of the Internet of Things because I got a little implant about the size of a paperclip in my chest last year that automatically tells the doctor if my heart rhythm is off. So I'm IoT. I think that's cool, right? IoT Technology Chain means sensors connected to the cloud using analytics and machine learning to improve outcomes. So I worked with Honeywell last summer. Honeywell sells sensors, but they want to move from sensing, pump 34 has a bad bearing, the red light is on, to meaning, means I have to shut down the AC in section 4, to action, service dispatch the backup chiller on. From sensing to meaning to action. And obviously you can see the impact of self-healing systems, the impact that predictive analytics will have. And you already heard about reducing maintenance costs 50% by using predictive analytics to have early maintenance warnings, to have a machine health index, to understand how to automatically dispatch, service, and get the right parts. And that's part of strategy 0, right? Increasing the revenue from the business you have today by using all these smart edge devices. Now, if you put cloud and mobility and big data and connectivity together, you get the basis for VR and AR, right? So it's a whole new opportunity to help people train, to help them do things that they don't do that often. And you can even talk to them while they're doing that and help instruct them on how to move forward. And we're going to have VR-based meetings. My son in the game business is already doing this with VR product design. You'll see the ability to move into adjacent workspace and collaborate with VR. Now, robotics is also based on these technologies. So whether it's a first responder robot, this little robot that lets Johnny go to school, this one that gives you a tour of a self-storage facility, this robot my company built for Hilton that's a concierge. Now, I don't know if you're going to deploy robots in your business exactly, but I think you'll deploy RPA, robotic process automation. As you link these machines together and work on the workflow, you'll add RPA to automate pieces of the workflow and reduce cost. The future is coming, right? Everybody talks about self-driving cars, but are they really here like this? No. We don't start with the ultimate. We start with something like this that is in Las Vegas right now, a self-driving bus. I spoke with a group of senior center operators the other day, and I thought you'd enjoy this video about seniors and self-driving.
Go, baby, go. You don't understand, nobody's driving. I didn't know where to go.
Why did it just stop then?
It stops, right? Well, it's stopping for people, and I think that's great.
Okay, right now we're stopped because there's a mob of students coming back and forth, and they're not getting out of our way because they think we're stopped.
So what sort of things can you do in a car if you don't have to be driving?
Maybe you could use your cell phone if you wanted to. That's a danger right now, isn't it?
Hey, if you were single and had a girl with you, your hands would be free.
This reminds me of the cartoons of Aladdin on his magic carpet.
It reminds me of one of my dreams come true, to be a part of the outer space program.
My son's gonna make me buy one, I think, because you won't let me drive anymore.
That's a whole new definition of hands-free driving. What about 3D printing? You heard that earlier. There are people now printing houses. They're printing airplane parts. They're printing whole buildings. They're printing casts. 90% of hearing aids are 3D printed. 90%. That happened in 4 years. The whole industry turned over in 4 years. This is very powerful stuff. And guess what? Rico knows an awful lot about 3D printing. So, strategy one, right? Moving into something entirely new, 3D printing. You know, GE just got the first jet engine fuel nozzle approved by the FAA. Think about how it's made today. A bunch of small factories in China build parts, they ship them to an assembler, he puts them together, sticks them in a warehouse, waits for GE to call, then they put them on a ship and a truck and get them to Fairfield. Introduce a 3D printer. All that supply chain is gone. GE gets a part that's cheaper, lighter, stronger, faster, no inventory. What gets disrupted? Everything. Truck drivers, insurance, warehouse, container ship, sub-assembly, forwarder, customs broker, gone. Wouldn't you want to be that disruptor? To be the guy who builds the part or sells the 3D printer to GE rather than to be in that supply chain that is gone? That's the opportunity. Security is key to all this. I'm the security officer of a public company. I'm on a board of another security company. I see all these incidents. They all are happening, and it's going to have to be an integral part of what you sell to ensure to your customers that what you do in workflow is secure. So we've talked about 10 forces of disruption. I could talk about 20 more, but it's about change. And if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. You have to accept change. And we know that technique follows technology. It takes a while for technique to catch up with technology, but it's catching up. We're getting these new business models that are coming in all the time. Uber, the largest limo company, owns no vehicles. Facebook, the world's biggest publisher, develops no content. Alibaba, the biggest retailer, doesn't have inventory. And Airbnb doesn't own hotels. What do they own? They own the edge. They own the edge. The edge used to be about being at First and Main, but the edge today is about being at the edge of the glass. Because the edge of the glass is where the customer is, whether they're in the office or sitting at home. That's where you want to reach them. And the edge is rewiring distribution. You know, about 20 years ago when I lived in Dallas, I needed a new air conditioner. What did I do back then? I looked in the yellow pages, asked my friends. They said, go to Johnson. He's a good dealer, and he sold Train and day night. I bought a Train. I didn't talk to the manufacturer. I couldn't talk to the manufacturer. What would I do today? Well, now I have a computer. The manufacturer has a website. I'd check out the manufacturer's site. I'd look at a price comparison site. I'd read a review site. The manufacturer would give that lead to the dealer. The dealer might call me. A whole new relationship that's being rewired. That's why it's so important that Rico is investing in AdWords and passing you leads from the website, because consumers work differently and B2B buyers work differently than they did before. Apps rule the edge. Taco Bell gets 20% higher average order value from the app than from the store. Why? Because there's nobody pushing you from behind, right? And you can read all the products on the app when there are only 6 on the backboard. Amazon gets the edge. They have these little dash buttons you can put on your washing machine and press it to order Tide from Amazon. And now they have an API so the washing machine can order Tide from Amazon whenever it wants, right? And Britas are already ordering their own filters. What a lock. You're going to reprogram that to work with Target? No. UPS is worried about 3D printers because you won't need to ship if you have a 3D printer, so they put them in their stores, but Amazon did one better. They have a patent for a 3D printer in a truck. It's going to print the thing you want while the truck is coming to your house. Wow. Penny Mint and Yodlee are used by millennials to manage their money because the database and the interface is better than the bank, which is why Jamie Dimon said Silicon Valley is coming, channeling Game of Thrones, right? He's worried. Somewhere out there in Silicon Valley, it's a group of people saying, your margin is our opportunity. Your margin is our opportunity. They focus on OPA, other people's assets. Here's how the business model works. This is the basic model at Amazon. And then Jeff said, let's sell used books. People said, well, why would we do that? He said, well, we don't have to buy the book, store the book, ship the book. We don't have to finance the inventory, set the price. We'll just market the book, find the client, sell the book, bill and collect, add some software. Fulfillment by Amazon is half their business. No assets. How about Uber? They said, well, this model's screwy. We don't want to own cars, license cars, service cars. The market will enforce our brand. We don't advertise. Drivers find us. We'll just do these 4 things, add some software, become the biggest limo company on earth. Airbnb, same deal. We're not going to find hotels, they'll find us. We're not going to provide security, manage the property, hire the staff. We're not going to set prices. We'll just find the clients, take the reservation, bill and collect, and become the biggest hotel chain on earth. There are other models. OPI, other people's information. That's Google, right? They don't make information, they let you find it. OPP, other people's products. That's the music store with Apple. They're not a label, but they make more money than any other label. OPD, other people's data. That's Kayak. We don't fly airplanes, we don't have hotels. We just made $2 billion allowing you to access someone else's data. These businesses are about less capital and more speed. Less capital, more speed. You say, wait a minute, I have the customers, the product, the factory, the supply chain, the brand, but maybe you're not easy. There's a slogan in Silicon Valley, step 1, install software. There is no step 2. That's how easy these companies are to deal with. So don't let some kid in the valley come eat your lunch. Own the assets and the edge. And that's exactly what this meeting is about. Partnership between the assets, Rico, and the edge, you guys. And how you come together to fight off these startups. What's the new model? You know, recently I went to speak to Hartford Steam Boiler Insurance. It's a 150-year-old company. I said, wow, do you still insure steam boilers? They said, yeah. I said, what are you doing now? They said, well, we started a cyber insurance division, and we're insuring the Internet of Things. Because it's just like a boiler. It's in the factory, we got to inspect it, it's going to break, we'll pay off if we have to. They're going to be 200 years old. They get it. Oh, and then there's O&I, outcomes, not iron. So GE is now selling engines by the hour because they can do predictive maintenance. You want 98% uptime? Fine. You want 95? Insurance companies are selling insurance based on how you drive. John Deere and Dow are guaranteeing crop output per acre if you use their corn drill and their chemicals. That's an outcome. So think about outcomes, because there's more change coming. Can you hold it back? Should you just hide? What should you do? You know, Kodak invented the digital camera, but they never deployed it. And the day Kodak went bankrupt, Instagram raised $1 billion. Photography didn't go away, Kodak did, because they couldn't change. So from one perspective, that's a disruption. But from another perspective, it's an innovation. Disruption, innovation, disruption, they're just two sides of the same coin. You only call it a disruption because you didn't do it. It was done to you. If you did it, you'd call it an innovation, right? So think about it. Where do you want to be? You want to be at the end of the dominoes? You can act. Travel agents disappear. Remember the headline? You already heard this. He stole my joke. 18,000 travel agents went out of business, but 18,000 are still here. In fact, my daughter is an old world travel agent. Of all things, I spent my career trying to get rid of them, and she is one, right? But she has a new toolbox with social media and mobile and all kinds of new tools. Technology is not the only thing that's changing. Our customers are changing too. They work in teams. They're untethered. They work anywhere, on a fire escape, in a Starbucks. How do we support them? They don't understand the analog world. Watch this 2-year-old. She gets this right away. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. What's wrong with this thing? Does my finger work? No. No. My finger's not broken, is it? No. It works. Back to the one that works, right? That's how kids think. That's how customers are today. They're harder to catch, so we need a better mousetrap. Somewhere out there, Patrick is the key to increased sales. Find that key, Patrick, bring it to me. Ever have a boss like that? I did. Relationships are changing. They're different, they're digital. Selling has changed since the days of Willie Loman. The past was about speeds and feeds to technical buyers. But today we're talking about selling collaboratively designed solutions. Solutions to digitally empowered companies. Solutions that improve their business. It's a different kind of sell. So we've talked about disruptive technologies, disruptive business models, disruptive customers. Gosh, is that all depressing? No, because new opportunities lie where old models are crumbling. I'm a testament to that with Travelocity and Kayak. So how do we turn disruption off? Well, first off, let's think about what's holding you back. 50% of executives are dissatisfied with the state of innovation in their company. I'd suggest they look in the mirror. What's your risk profile? Do you avoid it, reduce it, transfer it, or accept it? I think you have to accept it. You can't set the system for low risk anymore. Now, I started my career as a receptionist in a travel agency, as you know. 6 months in, my manager said, let's go do a startup. And you might think that was a big risk, but it was really a small risk. I was single, I was 21, I was living in an apartment, I didn't make much money anyway. And in 5 years, we turned our company into the 50th largest travel business in the US, passing 30,000 others. And then I jumped to a second startup, selling mini computers to travel agents. 6 months in, that company was sold to American Airlines. Pretty soon, I was climbing the ladder, assistant VP, VP of computer ops, CIO. When I was CIO, I took a huge risk. I was married, I had 2 kids, a big salary, a big mortgage. I said, you know that little online product we have in AOL, I'd like to go run that. And they said, you're nuts. I said, no, I think I can do something with it. And we turned it into Travelocity and took it public for $1.2 billion. Now, after that, I took a lot of small risks. I've been on 14 public and private boards. I'm a consultant, a venture capitalist, an author, a speaker. As I look back at those companies, some of them shrank, some of them flamed out entirely. And the rest of them created $6 billion worth of value, and 2 of them are unicorns. Risk, reward. Now I'm all in again with my time and my treasure. I have a new startup, Wayblazer. It's focusing on AI for the travel business. And people say, Terry, do you have to do another startup? I say, no. Dude, I'm on Medicare. I don't have to do a startup. I'm old. I want to do another startup. So take the first risk. Maybe you'll fail, but failure leads to success. And check the mirror again, because are you really listening to your customers? You need sentries. At Travelocity, we had a phone booth in the hall. If you picked up the phone, you could listen to customer service. And everybody in the company, from the guy in the mailroom to me, had to listen to 2 customer service calls a month. And at staff meeting, discuss 1, have we fixed the defect in our company that made someone have to call? And 2, what great new ideas did you get from your customer this week? It involved everybody in the customer's pain. And that's what's so important in this partnership, because Rico needs your feedback about what customers are talking about. Now at Kayak, our CTO said, look, we're a search company, we don't have a phone bank, but we send the emails that we get to the engineers. And you might think that's crazy because engineers are expensive, but our slogan is give the pain to the people who cause the pain, right? And it works. Kayak went public with 200 people, partly because the engineers were so close to the customers. So listen, because if you do, your mutual product will be clay in the customer's hands. Kayak has the #1 mobile travel app in the world. We have 55 million people using our product. But when it came out, we thought it was about next flight out. We thought it was about a hotel for tonight. Turns out, they used the mobile device just like the desktop. They were booking 2.5 weeks out. If we hadn't had short feedback loops, if we hadn't listened, we would have failed. So listen. get that feedback to Rico. Make the changes in your organization and make better decisions. You know, everybody's envious of Silicon Valley because they make decisions so very quickly. But having been in big corporations, it's more like this. You see, you launch your idea out there, and marketing says, well, that's a stupid idea. IT says, we can't help you with that. If you get through them, well, then manufacturing says we can't build it. Service says we could never fix that. If you convince them, then they bring out the big guns because it's time for finance and legal and, well, game over, right? I mean, that's how it works in big companies. It doesn't have to work that way. If you come together, you have better intelligence than those two guys in Silicon Valley. Just don't be Dr. No. It's so easy to say no to a new idea. Your job is to say yes. Your job today is to get it across the finish line. It's the only way you will compete, by making faster decisions. Steve Jobs used to say, I love to go to car shows. I want to buy a concept car, but you can't. He said, how come when they come out 3 years later, they look like crap? Because they went through the pinball machine, right? How did he take phones that look like this and make phones that look like that? 2 ways, I think. First, absolute clarity of the endpoint. You need to know where your business is going. What do you want? And secondly, unending focus on getting there. Clarity and focus will get you to your iPhone. Now, maybe you're just chained to an old model. You've been doing it the same way for so long. You gotta hire some kids. Hire some people who will challenge you. But when they walk up, don't say, well, Bob, nice idea, but we've always done it this way, and we've actually never done it that way. The air will go out of the room. You'll never hear from him again. Be open to change. What is dangerous is not to evolve. Face your fears. Established organizations view disruption as a threat instead of saying, how can we do that? How can we do that? We have the factory, we have the brand, we have the customers, we have the relationships. How can we do that? You don't need to be disrupted. Their innovation could be your disruption, but you can act. So stop being disrupted and innovate. And as you look at this new digital world, don't just recreate the past. Reimagine what the future can be, because that's the opportunity you have here together to reimagine where this world of printing and documents is going. Chuck Hull invented the 3D printer, and the story goes that he was looking at a CNC machine. Those machines take a big block of steel and carve it up to make a gear. And he said, well, that's subtractive. Could there be an additive machine? And he looked at an inkjet printer, and he said, maybe I could make a 3D printer. And now we have printers that make parts. We have printers that make an entire car. Customization becomes the norm. That's where the world is going, where customization and personalization become the norm. But now people have reimagined, they're making artificial hands for kids who never had hands. That's not only important for the first one, but as a kid grows, he might need 20 of these. And it's cheap. You can make them at home. They've invented an ear that hears with a skin printer. We're printing organs today, reimagining what a 3D printer could be. We've had radio-controlled airplanes for years, right? But then along came the drone. Now, of course, we just recreated the past, right? People said, well, we have a crop duster. Maybe we could have a drone crop duster. That's a good idea, but not a big leap. But then people said, well, what about the farmer? And they put FLIR infrared sensors on those drones, so now they can tell the farmer where he's got too much fertilizer, where he doesn't have enough, where he needs more water. Now, if you really want to imagine something, look at this drone that I found the other day.
Drones. Our world is just beginning to see the vast capabilities this technology provides. At Aerial Anthropology, we're using the power of drones to transport people to the places they may otherwise have never seen again. Carol and her family went to a park where she spent summers and winters as a child. She was able to share this experience with 3 generations of her family. Through the lens of our drones, they felt like they were walking on the beach together. They were able to revisit the happiest times of Carol's life in the midst of her greatest struggle. From parks and hills to out on the open water, it allows the participants to escape the extreme difficulties they're facing and free their minds from the anguish of life's most trying times, all while still resting comfortably in their room, surrounded by their family and friends. Using a live feed from our drones, we can take people who otherwise may never leave their room again to these special places. So why is this program, this experience, so important? Our participants are hospice patients.
Talk about impactful. Talk about reimagining. What an amazing thing to do with something as simple as a drone. Folks, the last 25 years were about who could build things the cheapest. The next 25 years are about who can build things the smartest. Let me end with a story about change. Growing up, my son was not the boy genius. He was not a nerd. He was just a kid who liked to play those massively multiplayer video games where you play people all over the world. When he was a sophomore in high school, he and a bunch of kids designed a game called Day of Defeat about June 6, 1944, D-Day. That was when he was a sophomore in high school. By the time he was a sophomore in college, 50,000 people a day were playing his game. And he called up and he said, "Dad, somebody wants to buy the game for $300,000. What should I do?" I said, "You should sell. You're in college. I need the money." And he did sell. But the cool thing was the game was built by 5 kids from Europe, 5 kids from the US, 1 kid from Canada. They never met. They created this $300,000 virtual company entirely through IM and chat. He is your new employee. Will you listen to him? He is your new customer. Will you hear him? That's where the world is going. Now, there's a coda to the story because after he left college, he went to work for Sony and then EA, the world's largest game company. He worked on some of the biggest games in the world. And maybe he has some of my blood because he quit after a while and he started his own game company with 3 other kids. And they released their first game called Into the Stars. I'm happy to tell you it's not a first-person shooter game. It's an adventure game. I was very happy. How did 4 guys compete with Electronic Arts who spends $100 million on a game? They used the new world, right? Funding was Kickstarter. Office was their apartments. Team was crowdsourced. Customers came from social and search. IT was in the cloud. You can do that. Shell has its own Kickstarter program. You can crowdsource the skills you don't have. You can use the cloud yourself to reduce your costs. And because I gave the most money to Kickstarter, he made me an admiral in the game. I will kill your planet. Now, there's a coda to this story. Ben's company failed. They only sold $400,000 of the game. But did Ben fail? No, he immediately got a way better job he'd ever had before, and he just got another one this week. Because the people said, "You build a game as good as those $100 million games." Yeah, it failed, but games are a hit business. You went up against the giant, and you did pretty well, and we want you. Failure can be a path to success. Fail again. Fail better. Learn from mistakes. Take risks. Let's review. Now, the best way to review is to buy my book, available wherever books are sold. But seriously, we've talked about 10 forces of disruption, digital disruption. More importantly, we talked about the business models they've engendered and how those are new and different business models. Think about that Rubik's Cube and all the things that they took out. We said that disruption and innovation are 2 sides of the same coin. It's only a disruption because you didn't do it. How do we turn disruption off? What's holding you back? Risk? Take risk. Make better decisions. Give up on that old model and move to the new one. What is that new model? Is it OPA? Is it OPD? Is it ONI? I think for you it's ONI. It's outcomes more than iron. You heard the price of iron is falling like a rock, but the price of services isn't. Stop being disrupted. Innovate. Don't just push what you have. You need to be the thought leader for your customer in document management. You need to explain to them where the world is going. You need to help them decide. You need to understand the new world is about systems. We heard about healthcare. Healthcare is a system. You've got to sell the systems of tying it all together. Systems that are secure, systems that are compliant, systems that increase productivity. And the only way to do that is teamwork. It's partnership. It's you and Rico partnering together. Because together you have the strength to make that sale, and separately you don't. Help the customer to success through partnership. Now with that, I wish I could say the radar screen of business was clear. But the radar screen of business looks like this. We always have to navigate the storms. There's always change. How much change can occur in the space of one career? When I started my career in 1970, I was hand typing invoices. I was very proud of my $150 Bomar calculator. Right? I wrote tickets by hand, and believe it or not, I made my first reservation by telegram. That's how old I am. Right? If that's too old for you, if you can't imagine that, think of just 25 years ago. No search, no Wi-Fi, no GPS, no YouTube, Dropbox, no smartphone, no Travelocity. And yet we've survived. And I think today I'm still operating on full throttle, because where am I after all that change? I'm deep into AI. I love it. It's fun. I want to grasp the future and go somewhere with it. Steven Spielberg says, when your conscience shouts, here's what you should do, oh, maybe I should just give up. Listen to your intuition, because it says, here's what you could do. Here's what you could do. You took a risk to found your business. It's going to be a risk to change, but here's what you could do. I wish there was a button for innovation on the keyboard, but there isn't. And I know you think you have a tough job, and you do, and it's only tougher because of all these new technologies. But you don't have the toughest job. They have the toughest job. They're the great Walendas, the world's best wire act. They perform without a net. You know what their mission statement is? You fall, you die. They have a tough job. You can do this. It's not that hard. The opportunities are out there. It won't be easy. There's a lot of competition. But Rico has given you the best tools. Never give up. Never give up. And remember, the future is a foreign country, and they do things differently there. Thank you very much. Thank you.